What's up, everybody? This is the Man of Steel, Mike Verna, and you are listening to the 3 Count Podcast.
I knew that she raised one. All of your hate won't change none. Who you think you are and who I am.
Welcome, everybody, to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, and if you go back through every single episode, I have been on every one of these because that's what I do. I grind this out. But enough about me. Now let's get into this roster. Coming up, he is my best friend. He's been the one dude who's been with me since 1996. If you don't know, now you know, suckers. That's who he is. He is the man himself. He is the veteran known as Lou the Franchise.
Hey, fuckers. Today's going to be a good day.
It is going to be a good day because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring, which means we have a special guest for you. That special guest, he comes from ACW. You've seen him at 302 Pro Wrestling. You've seen him at SCWA. You've seen him at 1CW. You've seen him at Rampage Pro Wrestling. He's been associated with the Bully Club. And if you don't know what that is, you probably should hit the YouTube button and go research because it's really fucking cool. That's who it is. He is the man himself. Give it up for the man who's got no problems coming back from all of the injuries, PJ Parker.
What's going on, man? Appreciate the introduction. Best intro I've ever had.
Hey, I like it, man. I feel like that's probably gonna be my new calling. But once I retire from the business, I'm just gonna go into announcing. I feel like it could be a natural fit.
Absolutely. You put me over like that, I'll take you everywhere I go.
What was that movie? Was it in Ray where like Ray Charles like took that one dude like everywhere and he had to learn like his intro in like 18 different languages. I'm like, I'm about that life.
Yep.
Well, let's get this thing kicked off, right? So I got a set of questions, Lou's got a set of questions, and then we have a world famous 10 count questions right after that. But the question that we want to start off with is, who is PJ Parker?
Man, PJ Parker is just a small town country boy from Wolford, Maryland. Came from a family of watermen. I had a pretty good childhood. A lot of people could classify it. It was a little rough. My parents had me when they were in high school, so they were kids with a kid. But man, I tell you what, like I said, I watched them grow up, and I got to see them mature as parents, and I think it helped me as a parent. But I'm just a hard-working country boy. I got a wife, Brenda, 2 daughters. Nicole will be 12 in March. Tara will be 8 in a couple weeks. But man, I'm just a father, a fan, a wrestler. I'm just a good old boy, as they say down in the boonies.
Hey man, we're from Nebraska, so we know all about what it's like to be in the sticks.
Man, I went out there one time. I went out to Nebraska for like 3 days in my old job. We had to go out there. I had a blast.
Do you remember what town in Nebraska?
Omaha.
Okay, yeah. Shout out to Omaha.
That's the city. Let's get away from the city. Let's go to the other side and let's go to the country.
Yeah, we're in a far, like, as you hit Omaha, you got to take another 10 hours to the west to get to where we're from.
Oh, man. See, if the Wi-Fi can't connect to where I'm at, that's where I want to be.
Hey, and you would be right in the right spot with us.
Absolutely.
We didn't know what Wi-Fi was until we came out here, and then we realized, well, that was called Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So let's get into some of these other questions I really have for you, man. So what inspired you to get into the wrestling business?
I was just always a fan. I'll never forget it. One night I was sitting with my dad, and he was just flipping through the channels. I remember he was an Atlanta Braves fan. I'll never forget it. And they had just lost the playoff game, and he was irate. My God, he was pissed. And he just started flipping through the channels, and can't remember what channel it was, but it was showing a replay of WrestleMania 7. And the match that was on there was, excuse me, it was Jake the Snake Roberts versus Rick Martel in a blindfold match. And, man, it hooked me. I can't necessarily pinpointed that hooked me, but man, just seeing them guys just put a blindfold on, and just the way they had a crowd in the palm of their hand, it captivated me as a kid. And ever since then, man, I've been hooked every Monday. I got out of wrestling, watching it for a little bit when I was a teenager. When I got into high school, found some extracurricular activities other than wrestling. But always been a fan, just got hooked, love the storytelling. Because I'm not a big reader, never have been. But I love a good story. I love a good story. If I ain't got to sit there and read, I'm all about it.
Same, man.
WrestleMania 7, yo, that was a good WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter.
Absolutely, one of the best storylines, controversial storylines with, but at that time, and also, WrestleMania 7, it was one of the best pay-per-views ever because the storytelling from top to bottom was one of the best. You had Ultimate Warrior versus Macho Man with the retirement match. I mean, you had Jake the Snake versus Rick Martel in the blindfold. You had that's right. And, you had Hulk versus Slaughter, and that was real life controversy at the time. But I tell you what, it put butts in the seats and they delivered.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite things too about like a good controversy, man. It always creates cash, and I feel like that Slaughter line when he switched sides and everybody was like, "What is this?" Like I was like, I remember being involved with that too. I was like, "Yo, I'm in." And my dad was a huge Slaughter fan, and when Slaughter changed, he was like, "Oh, fuck him, fuck this man."
It was great. The fact that he played that role, I was listening to the WrestleMania 7 episode on the Bruce Pritchard podcast, Something to Wrestle With, and man, they said that Slaughter was getting mad heat. They said he was getting death threats. They said that they had to move his wife because they were throwing stuff at his house. But they said he lived through the gimmick and he didn't want to give it up. They said he loved the story.
It was boss. It was also cool to see that Sergeant Slaughter is like the only person to be in G.I. Joe. I'm like all about that life, man. He's one of my favorite people, like just in general. Like I can't wait to the day I get to meet him. Like that will be like top 5 moment like all time.
It goes to show how talented he is. He's been in the business since ever. And like I said, he's still relevant. I mean, when his in-ring career was over, he worked behind the scenes for years. Years. Like he was an agent, a finish guy. Like I said, just he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Like he's one of the unsung heroes. People don't talk about Sergeant Slaughter a lot.
No. But speaking of people that don't get really talked about, man, here's something I really wanted to know from you. What do you think is missing from the industry?
Storytelling. Don't get me wrong. These athletic moves that everybody is doing, I'm envious. I wish I could do a quarter of what these guys can do. But it seems like there's no storytelling. That's awesome that you can do all these moves. That's awesome that you can go up, triple backflip with a reverse kick, all that stuff. I sit in all of it. I really do. But at the end of it, why are you doing that? There has to be a reason of every single thing that you do, every movement, every eye roll, facial expression. There has to be a reason why you do it. And nowadays, I think the storytelling's kind of took a back seat a little bit. And, and like I said, wrestling has its boom periods and its down periods. Obviously, with everything going on in the world, it's in a down period. But the storytelling, in my personal humble opinion, I think it's missing big time missing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's one of those things. Like I wish because obviously with some people you're always need the same kind of story, right? Like Rey Mysterio is like prime example. He's like my favorite wrestler, but he's always the underdog. It just doesn't matter what role he's in, who he's playing against. He's always the underdog, and it's like always the underdog trying to triumph over. But you're right. Like every movement that he hits matters all the way to the end. We had this argument actually a couple weeks ago. So by the time the people see this episode, it'll be about a month ago. But we had this argument where we were talking about AEW, right? Throw out an example. They had they go through tables and they hit each other with ladders all the time. But quote unquote spot monkeys. But what it is just like you don't remember the finish. You just remember like certain spots, and then you're just like, how did that match end? And I was like, I don't. Someone climbed a ladder. Like I don't remember.
I really like AEW. It's just something new. I thought the business as a kid, when I was a kid, when all the competition was going, I think it was just a little down period because wrestling was definitely changing at that time. You know, all the competition was going. WCW was going. ECW was going. There was no TNA yet. There was no Ring of Honor. You know, it was just the WWE was the only show in town, and just sometimes, you know, it could just get stale. But AEW, I mean, I like it. Like I said, something different. I have a lot of friends that work there, and I mean, like I said, it's wrestling, and anytime if I can watch something and learn, I'll watch and learn. But I actually, it's funny that you mentioned AEW because the other night, last Wednesday, I actually turned it off. I watched the whole show all the way up to the Lance Archer Dean Ambrose match, and the opening spot of that match it completely turned me off because he came in, Dean Ambrose came in, ducked the clothesline, and then hit Lance Archer with his finisher, and then he kicked out. And I'm like, well, what's there left to do in the match?
Right.
and not only that, I'm big on respect in the business too. And Jake the Snake is Lance Archer's manager. He invented the DDT. Dean Ambrose has his own variation of it. But, I mean, opening spot of the match, you hit the DDT, and he kicks out. Everybody that Jake pinned back in the day with the DDT means nothing now.
Yeah, it's true. And it's one thing that, like, I know, like, other people have talked about, like, because even, like, Kenny Omega and the One-Winged Angel, like, no one has kicked out, right? But everybody's waiting for that one person to do it. And I'm like, it just shouldn't happen. Like, that's it. That's the end. We were talking about, like, finishes. It's like, you know, when the Dudley Boys back in WWF/WWE, when they put someone through a table, like, that was it. They weren't kicking out. That was just, they were done. Mm-hmm. It's where, but now you see, like, dudes go, like, to 3 or 4 tables, and they're, like, kicking out at it, too. And you're like, well, you're kind of bearing all that stuff prior.
Nobody, I guess outside of Randy Orton nowadays, outside of that, I mean, that devastating finisher that you rarely see anybody kick out of right now is non-existent outside of Randy. I mean, you know, it's just, I mean, it goes back to the storytelling. I mean, it's your finish. That's a reason it's called a finish. Now, like I said, there needs to be a reason to kick out of the finish. Like back in the day with Austin and Rock, you know, when they would kick out of the rock bottoms and Austin, it brought you up like, oh, okay. But these two knew each other so much, and they made you believe that I'm not staying down for this motherfucker. No matter how hard I'm hitting or he's hitting me, I'm kicking out.
Right.
And nowadays, it's almost every match.
Yeah, that is one thing. So I guess for me, what it feels like, and I kind of want to know this question too, is like, what would you give, like, what kind of advice would you give to up-and-coming wrestlers?
I remember we were talking about this right before we came on. The first rule that I was told, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here. I'm pretty sure I heard you drop the F-bomb, but I was told, shut the fuck up and open your ears and don't speak unless spoken to. And I tell you what, I learned a lot. Sitting in the locker room when I first started, you know, if anybody needed anything, you know, putting the ring together, the ring crew, but just sitting down listening to guys plan out their matches, sitting there listening to guys talk about, well, this is the reason I'm going to do that. We're doing this because of this. You learn so much just listening and watching. And a lot of people nowadays, they just, yep. They're not willing to sit back and just shut up and listen. You don't know everything. I've been in this is my 10th year. I learn something new every match. And that's what a lot of people just need to do. They need to just listen. I spent first couple years, we were doing a storyline where I was a timekeeper in Power Pro Wrestling. And, man, I'm here to tell you, every show, sitting there, ringing the bell, watching every single match. I'm like, oh, okay. That's just why they're doing that. You literally sit there and, you're sitting there trying to pay attention to make, you know, do what you need to do. But man, I was just sitting there. I even took a notepad with me each show and was writing down stuff that I thought would be integral to my training and my upcoming.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, that's like, and I think when we met at SCWA, like that's the first thing I think. Like I think Nick even talked about it. He was like, Cliff has this notebook and he just writes everything that he can in it. And like my my purple notebook, and I don't care what color it is. People can make fun of it, but it really is for the Joker. But regardless, my purple notebook goes everywhere with me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And and every time, on the way home, a lot of times my wife would be driving, because she's a speed demon and she would just rather get home. So I just let her drive. But man, I would sit there and just study and just study and study. And then I would go back and watch the match in my head. And I was just like, okay. Like I was saying, this is why they did that. And in my head, I was like, well, I would go to read something on my notebook, be like, he did a springboard, but that was cut off. And then I would sit there and go back and be like, okay, it wasn't time for the comeback yet. That's why he did that. It's just, man, just sitting there and studying and listening and really being a sponge. There's a lot of people that I knew, they used to carry a sponge in their wrestling bag. That way, when they opened their wrestling bag to get dressed, for their match, they would look at that sponge bag. That's why I'm here, soak up everything.
You know what? I may start doing that now. You can probably see me doing that from now on.
I'm telling you.
All right. So I'm gonna let Anthony ask you a bunch of questions now, and then I'll come back to me, and then we'll wrap up with our 10 counts.
That sounds good, brother.
Brother, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing, my man?
I'm well. Can I have your autograph?
Sure.
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so it's day of your show. You just got done doing your thing in the ring. What are you eating?
What am I eating? Well, 2 years ago, it was Applebee's. 2 years ago, that was the main spot after a show, was everybody had to go to Applebee's because half off appetizers. You go there and tear that shit up. But, I'm getting older and everything. I'm starting to try to take care of my body a lot more. So I've been doing this keto diet lately. But when we were down at SCWA, we left there and went to Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'm so dedicated to this diet. I was even taking the meat off of the bread. I didn't even get the full-fledged burger anymore. It's very depressing. But back in the day, man, it was Applebee's. Like I said, I can even break down 10 boneless honey barbecue wings and
What's the hardest you've been hit in the ring?
what's that? I'm sorry.
What's the hardest you've been hit in the ring?
Ooh. Let me think. A couple weeks ago down at SCWA, I got kicked in the dome pretty hard by the Beast Mason Martin. I was seeing some pretty stars. But I'm going to have to say the hardest I've ever been hit was by a late friend of mine who used to wrestle. His name was Eric Chappell. And, man, we had this match, and we just went out there and beat the hell out of each other. But instead of connecting to the face, he was frogging me in the top of my head. And that shit was hurting. I've been frog splashed by a 400-pound guy named Ray Byrne with a steel chair on my chest. That was brutal. I gotta say, man, I've had a couple of good shots.
Okay. My last question for you is, what keeps you motivated to continuously to improve in the ring?
It's just something how I've always lived my life, no matter whether it was wrestling or not. I just want to be the best version of myself that I can be. And with wrestling, growing up, I had a lot of self-confidence issues. But, man, when I got in wrestling, I don't know, I just took to it. And I found out I don't want to say it was easy for me, but I didn't struggle with self-confidence issues. And I use wrestling not only just to better myself in the ring, I use it to better myself as a person. Can I take that self-confidence from wrestling? I try to apply it to my personal life. But man, the motivation of I want to live my dream. You know, I don't mind my job. I'm a construction worker. I don't mind it. But I would love to have wrestling pay my bills. And until my body, well, I don't want to say until my body gives out, because I definitely don't want to be that indie wrestler, you know, beaten up and all. Just I don't want to be that guy just beat up in general. But I'm going to do it until I can either get the right set of eyes on me, or I can just be like, hey, you know, I've had enough. I live my dream, and yeah, I'm good with it. But like I said, just hard work and just wanting to keep. Always told my parents I was going to be a professional wrestler, and not that they weren't supportive. It was just, oh, you know, he has a dream. He's going to be a pro wrestler and all that. Yeah, I did it. Not bragging or anything, but I've got some stories for the grandkids, and I'm very proud of, very blessed of what I've been able to achieve in the last 10 years.
Cool.
I don't mean for the long-winded answer, but I mean, hey, I just being honest.
No, absolutely. I love it.
I know, keep them long-winded, because essentially this podcast is all for you, man.
Yeah, this is all you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
So I guess here's like the other part for me. This will be like my last question before we jump into the 10 count questions. What's the hardest part about being a pro wrestler?
Being able to evolve. Chris Jericho's the master at it. Being able to just, you can't stay the same. You got to be able to evolve, especially on the indies. You know, for where we wrestle and stuff like that, you know, if they're coming there for 2 years or so and they're seeing you do the same old shtick, well, after 2 years, they might be able to get tired of it. And if you're not resonating with the crowd, guess what? You're not getting booked. Guess what? That means no money and no one's looking at you. And you just have to stay relevant and never stop learning. Never stop learning. Like I said, I've listened to Ric Flair's podcast. He's been in the business 212 years, and he's still learning. It's never stop learning. Don't ever act like you're better than everybody. Definitely keep your ego in check. Just be humble. Just be humble. Listen, and that's just the best way that's just the best way I can describe it. Always listen. Look to see what's next. Always look to keep improving, and don't get stale. Because once you get stale, then you run out of ideas.
That, man, I love that. I love that. That you just filled with so much knowledge, man. I totally appreciate this.
Yeah.
No problem. And like I said, I've been, I want to give a couple shout outs real quick if that's okay. Like I've been very blessed to have be around great minds that I guess that no one really knows. The guy who trained me, my best friend, we grew up together. He never even watched wrestling until me and him became friends, and then he ended up training me. His name's Brandon Mercury. That's his worker name. Real name Steve Knopp. Great guy, so underrated. When he trained me, he didn't take it easy on me. I mean, he definitely didn't take it easy on me because we were friends. And the thing is, at the time, we didn't have a ring. I was bumping in his guest room on his floor. That's where I was learning how to bump at first. And, man, like I said, he put me in awesome situations. The people he introduced me to, I always did what he said in the locker room. And a lot of the guys in the locker room took a liking to me and took me under their wing. Guys like James Ellsworth, his partner Adam Ugly, Mark and Jay Briscoe. Mark and Jay Briscoe finished. Van Hammer, Mark and Jay Briscoe actually trained Brandon Mercury, and like I said, that's not too shabby a training right there. Shout out to the world's best tag team, Briscoe Brothers.
Yep.
But, man, like I said, just very blessed. And I've always been I've been put with guys that were better than me, and they showed me. I cannot say one name that was ever ignorant to me, that didn't want to help me or anything. And that's why, man, I always try to give back. The business has been very good to me, and I try to give back. You know, like any advice that I can give anybody, if I know it, and if I can pass it along, I'd be more than happy to, because that's what was done for me. I was put in unbelievable situations to be successful independent wrestler. And like I said, man, like I was telling you earlier, in order for there to be a future of the business, these people that hold on to their spots, you're not building no future.
You're right, man. You're right. Absolutely. But with that being said, we are jumping into the second greatest part of this podcast. I say second because obviously all the questions we ask you me first. So time for the second greatest part of this podcast, and let's give it up to the 10 count questions. Here's how it works, man. We're going to fire off 10 questions at you, rapid fire, and, whatever first thought comes to mind.
I'm ready.
So let's put our imaginary timer on the clock. Bing! And here we go. Raw or SmackDown?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Favorite candy?
Candy corn.
Hey, let's go! All about the candy corn life.
Hey, look, there we go.
Yo, let's go. Let's go.
Candy corn.
I love you some candy corn. All right, football or wrestling?
Wrestling. Yeah, you're wrestling. And I've got my favorite team's logo tattooed on me. So, but wrestling.
Same here. Favorite podcast?
After today, 3 Count Podcast. And I'm not just saying that just to, get a little plug in for you guys. Seriously, man, you guys have been treating me awesome, and I've had a blast, really have. 3 Count Podcast, go check them out.
Night owl or early bird?
Early bird. I get up at 4 o'clock every single morning.
Dang. Favorite TV show?
MASH.
Yo, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Nominate someone to be on this podcast next.
Nominate someone to be on this podcast next. Quick. I'm gonna go with Matt Wild.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I forgot about Matt Wild. Yeah, Matt Wild is the name. And last but not least,
great guy.
It's amazing, dude. He actually is the guy who was teaching me how to throw strikes. So,
there ain't no one better. I'm here to tell you, because I tell you what, he might look little, but I'm telling you what, he packs a punch.
Yeah. And last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person that comes on this podcast: favorite curse word?
Goddamn. And I know that's a rough one, but I'm a big Friday fan, and from Smokey, and just the way he says it, God damn.
Right on. So that's it for the 10 count questions. So last thing for you, man, is that's cool, I'm not in here,
Oh, wow, they shut you out.
Yeah. Like, they low-key forgot I was in here, but all right, it's cool. So with that being said, let us know where our viewers and our listeners can actually find you.
Man, you can find me on Facebook. I haven't blossomed over to the gram yet, or the Twitter, but you can find me at PJ Parker on Facebook. And, you can see my pretty face and all my wrestling highlights. You see my beautiful family. And like I said, my inbox is always open for any aspiring wrestlers. Anybody has questions, or, hey, if anybody's out there that's willing to teach me some more stuff. Because like I said, man, 10 years in, and I'm still a sponge.
Let's go. So with that being said, I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller. This is the 3 Count Presents Now Entering the Ring, here with Lou the Franchise, here with the man himself now entering the ring, PJ Parker. That's it. Tune into the next episode. Be there or be somewhere else. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.